Hi, Max.
Brother, brother, oh brother of mine, I wish you could be erased from all of time. I wish your traces could be gone from all places, that evil itself could take you away and leave me alone on this very day. Ah. Felix!
Hey there, tennis fans! Back with another video game commentary by Tennisaloha. I am your host, Hueco, and in today's episode we'll be playing Max, The Curse of the Brotherhood. It's a game that I got on Xbox Game Pass, and you saw the story. It's about a kid, Max, who wishes his little brother away, but it actually came true and some demon thing took his brother. So now he has to go and rescue him. Gotta rescue my little brother. As always, while we play, we'll be discussing tennis topics. And the first topic is going to be how to prevent injury as a tennis player. Injury is just part of every athlete's life. No matter what sport you play and how much you take care of yourself, eventually injury is bound to happen to all of us. But the goal of an athlete is to minimize the severity and how often injuries happen. And there are some ways that we can do that, and they're kind of simple. And today, I have for you 5 tips on preventing injury for tennis players. Whoa. Alright, first step. Here we go. So the first tip is going to be warming up before a match, or warming up before playing tennis, and stretching afterwards. So the warm-up, I would recommend that players warm up off court. That means that hitting the ball is a warm-up, could be a warm-up, hitting gently back and forth, rallying with your opponent to warm up is a good way to warm up your strokes and your tennis movement. But by the time you do that, you should already be warmed up in terms of your body and movement. And very simply, what you want to do is you want to shuffle, run, skip, high knees, butt kick. You want to warm up your arms. A jog is also a good way to warm up. Whatever it takes for you, or whatever actually you like to do. Even you can go for a swim. If you have a pool nearby and you have some time before you play, you could jump in a pool and swim a little bit. So any exercise that flexes your muscles and it's not on the court would be a good way to warm up. Oh my goodness, oh no, where do I go? Oh my goodness. That is wild. So any exercise is good, but warm up before each time you play. This will greatly improve your chances of not getting injured. Then the second thing with that same point is going to be where do I go there? Down. There we go. Okay, I gotta go down and talk on that. Stretching after playing tennis, and this one is actually crucial and is the one that players do the least. after a match, after playing with your friends, after practice, whatever it may be, your muscles are pretty tense and they've been through a lot of stretching and bending and all sorts of things that happens to your muscles, and they need to be stretched out a little bit just in order to feel good the next day. So most players, what they do after they play tennis is they get in their car and drive away. And that is actually probably the worst thing you can do. Because, like I said, your muscles are tense and they need to be stretched and loosened up before sitting down in a very rigid position. You know what pros do? Like actual, like touring pros? They get on a bicycle or a treadmill right after playing tennis to get their heart rate to a kind of medium, it's a, whoa. To a medium balance, and that's how they prevent injury and make sure they recover quickly before their next match. Now, I know that's a little bit too much to ask from the average player to, get on a treadmill or a bike or a stationary bicycle after playing tennis. But it is what the pros do, which is the most efficient way to minimize injury and just be fit and ready for the next match. Another thing that you can do, the second tip on preventing injury, is working on your technique. All right, tennis is a sport that you can learn to do very well with minimal effort, and that comes with experience, a lot of time put in, and developing your technique so that when you strike the ball and you run for the ball and all these things, you do it in a very efficient way, which allows your body to be soft and loose when you play tennis. And you know what I'm talking about if you see Roger Federer play. He's got, amazing technique, and you can tell by the way he flows through the court. And that is why he's been one of the least injured players in the sport, especially when he was at the top of his game, number one for many 200 plus consecutive weeks. Oh, that's cool. His technique, and he was renowned for having great technique. Oh man, I jumped off. Which allowed him to remain healthy for a long time before he actually eventually started getting injured. And that's what I've been trying to tell you also, is that no matter what you do, how good you play, all these precautions that you take, your injury is still part of the sport, and you can't really do much about it. So work on your technique. For that, you could take lessons. You can watch videos of the pros playing and try to mimic the way they hit the ball and the way they move around the court. The movement has a lot to do with it, not just the shots themselves, but how you move your feet and how your energy flows through the court. That will allow you to move more efficiently, more loose, and therefore less injured. Of course, you need to drink plenty of liquids when you play tennis, and also eat a balanced diet. I mean, I'm not gonna get into specifics of what you should eat, because that's depending on each person, what they feel about or what they believe in terms of healthy eating. But in general, just eat healthy so that your body doesn't have to overwork processing, processed foods or junk food or fast food. We all know that those things cause the body to be strained, especially because we overeat when we eat these certain types of foods with high, level, whatever you say, with high sugar content.
All I have is this old magic marker.
Ooh, that will do pleasantly.
Okay, so another tip I'm going to give you is to prevent injury is have a workout routine or exercise outside of tennis. Tennis is not an aerobic exercise. We call it an anaerobic exercise, which means that there's too much stop and go, and your heart and breathing don't get to a rhythm. They go up and down too many times during a playing or tennis match time frame, that you don't get what you get out of running, for example, or cycling in terms of a workout. Instead, you get a very tedious kind of workout. Your muscles tend to be too tight and soft too many times on and off, and your breathing doesn't get to a rhythm. Like I said, you could be running in one point, side to side until you're tired, and then the next 3 points you don't really have to do much except walk around picking up the balls. So it's very important to prevent injury to have some kind of workout routine outside of tennis. And there is no perfect exercise you can do. There are many things that you can do. I would suggest you do something you like. And anything is good, like running is a very good one. I like to jog, swim. I like to swim also, swimming, playing soccer, basketball, whatever you want to do outside of tennis. It really will improve your chances of not getting injured simply by giving you a different workout, which will also make your muscles stronger, the ones that you don't use as much when you play tennis. Going to the gym is also a very good thing to do. However, I would say that if you hit the gym too hard and you start getting too buff, it will actually not be so great for your tennis game, because you want to be limber, flexible, and agile. And when you work out and your muscles get really big, it's tough to be all those things because you have too much muscle mass. So yeah, hitting the gym is a great thing, but I would say not, kind of a bodybuilding type of workout. But even then, I've seen bodybuilders who play tennis, and some of them are really good at it. I would say that they're not as flexible and agile as other players, but they are very strong. So it does help them. It's better than nothing, that's for sure. And it's better than just tennis, for sure. And anything that you incorporate is going to be better than just doing tennis or or not doing anything at all. Okay, and then the last thing, the last tip for preventing injury is get rest between matches or playing times, and also get rest and ice whenever possible. Ice is something that we always encourage players to do. We, like tennis professional people, we encourage players to not overdo, to ice themselves after matches. And it's something that is tough to get people to do, by the way. There we go. Amen. So rest is crucial. A lot of players get injured for overdoing it. Okay, overdoing it in terms of playing too much and not getting enough rest between matches. Also, when you ice yourself, you could focus a little bit on the tennis muscles that you overuse, like your legs, your elbows, your shoulders, pretty much your joints, right? All of your joints are well used when you play tennis. So ice those out, you will go a long way. And I think that's it. That's the last tip for, getting.
Yes.
Oh, I see what I gotta do now. Let's jump this guy. I gotta hurry up. There we go. Okay, so let's recap the 5 tips really quick. Right, warm up before a match or playing tennis, and make sure you stretch afterwards before you get in your car. Number 2, constantly work on your technique. Oh man. Always work on your technique. You could take lessons, whatever you have to do. Copy the pros. Anything's good. As long as you're trying to improve your technique, you will improve your technique. I know it sounds kind of silly, but just wanting to improve it will improve it, because you will make those changes even unconsciously. Drink plenty of water and eat healthy. That's probably the one that needs the least explanation.
Get up there by using only 2 earth pillars.
Have a workout routine outside of tennis. It doesn't matter what, as long as you're using, you're running, using muscles that you don't regularly use when you play tennis. And lastly, get rest. Don't overdo it. Yeah, so get some rest whenever possible and ice yourself. Okay? That's it for this topic. Let's move on to the next one. The second topic we're going to cover is hybrid stringing. Basically, when you string your racket, usually they sell you a set of string. This is something you've seen maybe in a sporting goods store or a tennis shop. It's like a pack of the string that you're gonna put on your racket, and it's called a set. Hybrid stringing is using 2 kinds of string to string your racket, one racket. So you basically use half of one string and half of the other. And there are some benefits to this. There are benefits to using 2 types of string. I particularly use a hybrid string method. And a lot of players don't like that. They use one set of string that they like. But what I think I get out of it is that I get a little bit of the best of both worlds.
Now what?
And what I mean by that is that
Soul? Say something.
usually the strings that go on the mains
Not a genie, huh?
are the ones that are going to be the ones that play the most on your racket. You're gonna notice the feel of the main strings rather than the cross strings when you play tennis. And so I like to use a polyester string, which is more playable, and it's the kind of string that the pros use because they hit the ball so hard, and the string allows them to, even though they're hitting really hard, to even though they're hitting really hard, the polyester strings allow the ball to stay relatively low and add a lot of spin, which makes the ball go down. So if you picture yourself hitting the ball as hard as you can upwards, you know that you would get a very, very high ball, right? A lot of power with those strings. But with those strings, you add a lot of topspin, and even though you're hitting upwards, the ball spins around and dips into the court. Of course, with technique, you get the exact angle to swing at, but essentially they allow you to swing up more and bring the ball down quicker. Whereas the softer strings, which the material is usually either polyester, no, not polyester, multi-filament rather, or synthetic gut. Those are softer strings, and they allow you to, for example, hit better volleys or just have more touch when you play a shot. And first I gotta get that thing. Oh my god, I messed up already. Let's see if we can get away with it. There we go. Oh no. There we go. That was cool. Good move. The softer strings allow you to get more touch, and so in combination with the polyester strings on the mains, I think I get a little bit of both worlds. And that's just my personal preference. Oh man. I'm gonna have to make him go back.
Felix, I'm coming to save you.
But again, it is personal preference, but hybrid stringing is basically using two types of string. The good news is that if done correctly, you can save the other half of the string so that you can use both, right? Like one set for both rackets. Like me, I have two rackets that I string every time, usually around 3 weeks. Every 3 weeks I string both my rackets, and I use hybrid stringing, so I basically use two sets of strings and I get two rackets, except half of each set on each racket. There are players who do hybrid stringing and they use different string weight or tension on their rackets. Oh, come on. Got stuck. Oh my god. And what that means is, for example, you string your racket at 55 pounds, right? Let's just say 55 pounds. When you do hybrid stringing, some players recommend, or some players like, to have two different tensions. A tension for the mains and tension for the crosses. I don't particularly like that. I actually like to have the same weight all throughout the racket. I string my rackets at 53 pounds when I do a hybrid stringing, and I always have to tell the guy who strings them, or if I string them, of course I do it, but if somebody else is stringing it for me, I have to tell them that, let's see here, now what, okay. I have to tell them that I want the same, oh my god, here we go, the same tension all around. Otherwise, they might put different tension on my rackets, and I don't like that. I don't like how it feels when you do different tensions. But supposedly, it's supposed to even out the tension because of the material that each string is made out of. So if you have softer strings and you string them at a certain tension, they're gonna feel softer than the harsher strings, the polyester strings. So the rationale behind doing different tension is to even that out, to have a better feel, or whatever it is that you're trying to get out of your strings. You can get really scientific with it if you want to, but I don't like that. I like to have my racket at the same tension, both sets of strings, and I put the polyester on the mains and the synthetic or multi-filament on the crosses. You could also do the other way around, put the polyester on the crosses and the softer string on the mains. And I think that's what Federer's supposed to be doing. I think that's what he does, Federer, if I'm not mistaken. He uses real gut, and then on the mains, and then some kind of polyester on the crosses. So there you go. That wraps up this topic. I think we covered it. At least we scratched the surface of it. So if you were ever interested in hybrid stringing, at least you have now an idea of what it means. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Guys, so the last topic of today's video game commentary is going to be how to handle your opponent's winners. So when you play tennis, every single time you play a match, your opponent is bound to hit one or more winners. Winners are basically shots that they hit and you either miss with a forced error or they outright hit a clean winner, which means you don't even get to the ball that they hit inside the court. And it has to be a forced error, because if it's an unforced error, we could argue that that was not a winner. Because if you're making unforced errors, that means that your opponent is basically just hitting a rally shot, a ball to get back to you, and you're missing that shot. You're making a mistake on it, and that's an unforced error. So that's not what we're talking about here. For that, you just need to improve your game, improve your consistency. What we're talking about is how to handle your opponent hitting winners. You're making either unforced errors on the shots that your opponent is hitting because they're making you move with an angle or with the amount of topspin they're putting, or they're just hitting it hard enough that it's hard for you to, get to the ball in time to prepare. And if this is happening, which by the way will always happen every single match that you play, you're going to encounter this. You also will be trying to do the same to your opponent, basically make them miss as much as you can with either your power, your topspin, whatever it is. And a really good way to handle your opponent's winners is to not care too much about them, because truly they don't really determine the match all that much. What I'm saying is that unforced errors are more of an indicator of who will win the match. You can have a match where both players hit a lot of winners, or sorry, that one player hits a lot of winners and the other player still wins the match. So the best recommendation, the best recommendation is for you to not care. Do not care about your opponent hitting winners on you. Okay, it's very important that you have bad memory about them. There's a saying that tennis players, or good tennis players, have bad memory. And what they mean by that is that we don't want to be dwelling too much on what happened. Instead, we want to keep a cool head when we play to improve our chances of winning. Because tennis is a very, everybody's going to get emotional when we play tennis. So you need to be less emotional if you want to win, or it pays off to be less emotional. when you play, and not caring about your opponent's winners, it's a big part of that. Because when they hit a winner on you, you're not gonna like it. It's gonna feel pretty harsh. But the good news is that you're also doing it to your opponent, maybe. And if you're not, like if you're winning more points on their unforced errors, and they're winning more points making winners on you, that doesn't mean that they're gonna win. Okay, it's because it's at the end, it's at the matter of it's at the mercy of the score, and there are many other aspects of what determine who wins a match. The serve has a lot to do with it as well. So the fact that they're hitting winners is not the end of the world. You should be okay with it happening. And when it does happen, I would say that another good tip is to not congratulate your opponent. I know we all say it, like nice shot, oh that was great, great shot, or we say, oh good one, man, you got me there. Whatever it is, I do it a lot. We all do it. And my opponents do it to me too. But I've noticed that the better opponents, they don't do it as much or not at all. And I noticed that when I don't congratulate my opponent, I tend to beat them more often. And this is one of the psychological aspects of tennis that no one will probably tell you about. But when you applaud your opponent, you might be building them up. You might be, acknowledging that they're gonna beat you that day. And that might go a long way for them to beat you. So if you notice that you're one of those players that, I see, there's a box. If you're one of those players that says all the time, great shot, oh good one, you got me, oh that was good, oh man, you hit it perfectly, oh wow, good shot, then that kind of stuff, I would suggest you don't do it anymore. Okay, it's something that, like I said, no one will say to you, but I think it might go a long way on your game, because we all do it, we all do it, and maybe if we don't do it, we can play better. And I found out that that's the case. Oh, this is not the way. By the way, also one more thing that you can do when they're hitting winners on you is remain consistent. It is very possible that when your player starts hitting winners, that you try to overhit to compensate those points that you lost. But don't do that. Remain consistent. No one can hit winner after winner after winner without making mistakes. And it's not so much the amount or stuff, because there's a rhythm to the match. There's times where your opponent's going to be ahead of you, and there's times where you're going to be ahead of your opponent. Cool. Ooh, wow. And you want to capitalize when you're ahead, when you're playing better, and when they're not playing that well. And the winners, that's where they have a lot to do with it, because if they start hitting a lot of winners to win points, then there's more likely that they're gonna start making mistakes. And when they do, you wanna remain consistent to improve your chances of winning each of the points. You wanna win more points than your opponent, you wanna stay focused longer, and remain consistent for longer as well. So if your opponent's hitting winners on you and you lose the whole first set on winners, on them hitting winners, that does not mean they're gonna win that second set. they're gonna start making mistakes. But if you're the one that starts to try to hit winners and make mistakes, then it's gonna, they're gonna take advantage even when they're not playing that well. And that's something you want to avoid. In any case, that's it for winners. Just stay relaxed the whole match. Remain consistent. Don't let it bother you. Forget about your opponent's winners. Don't congratulate them. And keep winning matches. Alright? That's it for today's episode. We'll come back to this game. It's a little bit tedious to play and commentate. But it's got a good graphic, I think, which you guys would probably appreciate. Plus, it's a cool kind of theme, There's a kid trying to find his little brother. I mean, what's cuter than that, right? And getting through pretty much a hell jungle out here. Alright, guys? I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Felix!